The art of reviewing media is as old as media itself, and the process is as simple as documenting your opinion after consuming whichever media it is you choose, and that often comes published in the form of a written article or a video. So it comes as no surprise that media reviews are widespread on YouTube, from games to music to movies, TV shows, and everything in between. One man who has managed to cultivate himself a large platform and all of the clout which comes with that through the concept of music reviews and reactions is the subject of today's video. Enter Brad Taste in Music. Brad has grown a YouTube channel up to over 300,000 subscribers, and at the height of his career he was pulling thousands of viewers to his live streams and making tens of thousands of dollars every single month. These days, however, Brad's channel lies mostly dormant and his career is all but over. So what the hell has happened to this once beloved YouTuber? Well, this is a story of mental illness, deceit, hypocrisy, domestic abuse, and a man who has time and time again brought wave after wave of unnecessary drama upon himself and gained all of the infamy of a lolcow. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the rise and fall of Brad Taste in Music. Bradley Lehman, better known online as Brad Taste in Music, created his channel on the 6th of March 2017. His first upload was a simple Eminem meme music video, which performed reasonably well for a first upload.
So I gave her Eminem.
He quickly transitioned away from meme videos and, inspired by popular music reviewers of the time, such as Anthony Fantano and Spectrum Pulse, he uploaded his first music review in September of 2017 on Forced Witness by Alex Cameron.
It gave you that movement, you know, just that groove, the funk, it's like, it's all there. Like, this was the song that made me realize, okay, I'm in for something interesting here.
From here, Brad would go on to produce more reviews in a similar format, but these early creations would only be received with mild success, as they were mostly just cut up videos of him talking about the album, absent any of the music itself. Brad quickly realised though that this lackluster approach wasn't going to lead to anything significant in terms of success, so he began to develop a particular savviness with his videos, beginning to feature flashier edits and heavily modified versions of the songs, which he was reviewing in order to circumvent YouTube's copyright infringement guidelines. This new approach brought almost immediate success, and his review of 21 Pilots' Blurry Face accumulated tens of thousands of views and was his most successful video at the time.
Whoa. Overall, I could see the appeal. I didn't see the appeal before, except for just saying like, oh, you know, these guys are for super edgy teenagers. Oh, and ARTV. And Spectrum Pulse.
Indie rock would become a sort of staple for Brad after this, and he would achieve great success with reactions to other albums from other indie bands such as Fall Out Boy, Arctic Monkeys and Panic at the Disco, to name a few. But his greatest success came from a video which I'm sure many of you will be familiar with. It was a reaction to My Chemical Romance's Welcome to the Black Parade.
Oh my god, it's not over. This sets the bar right here. Oh my god!
This video was met with almost universal acclaim and remains the most popular reaction on Brad's channel. And this reaction format definitely suited him more, as most of his previous reviews had mostly consisted of surface level observations, as he wasn't an effective music critic. But from this point onwards, he would see an injection of growth into his main channel, with him achieving 50,000 subscribers later in 2018. Bradley wasn't fully satisfied, however. His channel was generating revenue. He was also still in college, limiting the time that he had available to make content, and combined with the fact that his flashy editing and heavy use of effects was time consuming, he couldn't maintain a consistent enough upload schedule in order to support himself full time. So he needed to make a change, and that change would come in the form of a transition to live streaming. And this would simultaneously lead to Brad finding incredible success and eye-watering failure. Brad's transition to streaming would propel his career to a newfound status, and with this came a monstrous boost to his income, as he quickly identified that his audience were willing to pay for him to review albums and songs of their choosing. And this quickly became the main appeal of his content, with his audience now able to engage with their favourite creator and even have him review and react to their favourite music. And for Brad, this would translate into exorbitant sums of money being donated, with his fans happy to pay upwards of $400 for a single album review.
Disconnection, I feel like throwing up.
Oh, I feel like throwing up too listening to this snap beat. That's something we have in common, Dream.
Brad would be more than happy to cash in on this prospect, and he transitioned to a daily streaming schedule to accommodate this new space he had carved out for himself. And the pros to streaming for Brad were apparent, as he could now simultaneously produce more content with far less effort. So it almost feels like a win-win situation for everybody, right? Well, not exactly, as although the financial benefits were certainly appealing to Brad, this transition would come at great cost, as Bradley was not a mentally sound individual, and it wouldn't be an irregular occurrence for him to lash out or break down in bizarre ways whilst live on streams.
I, under no circumstance, can listen to this album right now because I am not safe in my own home, and I really can't describe much else.
Like you can probably imagine, these vulnerabilities would leave Brad wide open to trolls and hate viewers who would attempt to tease the man into a reaction, though the majority of Brad's audience were still very supportive, and his moderators did a fine job keeping his chat in check. However, no matter how large of a support system one has at their disposal, a budding lolcow always manages to find a way to cause complete carnage for themselves, and as the months and years rolled on, Bradley would firmly live up to that reputation. It became known that Brad had been struggling with more than just his mental health, and he revealed in a video that he was struggling with addiction, specifically to weed and video games, and these dependencies were having severe consequences to his well-being.
Oh God, I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about this, but I'll talk about it anyways. I had a bad weed addiction. I discovered weed, and it was just like, it felt like it gave me a new life. And by that I mean I forgot everything that happened beforehand and became really isolated, and it felt like I was living on a different planet, and I became really disassociated. Right now I'm about 5 months clean, which is awesome. But even though I'm 5 months clean, I still think about it every day. So, still got a long way to go.
The vast majority of his fan base were extremely supportive of his endeavours, with one commenter stating, "You've got this, man. There's no telling how many times I felt like I fucked up my life, and it's all completely my fault. But you really can't give up on this. Every one of us has complete faith in you." And initially, things were going very well for Brad. He seemed to be making good progress on this staying clean front, and he updated his fans twice in just as many years to celebrate this milestone. And honestly, this period throughout late 2022 and all of 2023 was arguably the most prosperous of Brad's time on YouTube. In particular, his torture live streams, where he would react to terribly rated music, were very well received, reaching millions of views in the process. It wasn't all great, however, as it became apparent that Brad still wasn't holding up all too well behind the scenes, with him breaking down on stream on a regular basis. Past struggles with addiction would be a subject in particular, which would seem to trigger a freeze response from the unsettled streamer.
Thank you, Allie.
What was that?
Yo, Allie, 4 minutes ago says, "Hey, Brad, I heard you mentioning a struggle with disassociation. I've been having the same experience for years after a bad Thank you, Allie.
This clearly wasn't a man who was mentally equipped to be dealing with the demands of streaming to and interacting with a large audience of people on a daily basis. But with this being his full-time career at this stage, and with him having a pretty well-oiled and tight operation, he probably felt at least some obligation to just power through and maintain his consistent schedule. This would ultimately prove to have disastrous consequences for the man. Despite his mental struggles though, Brad had still managed to keep things somewhat under control up until now. But as we moved into 2024, things were about to go from reasonably good to catastrophically abysmal, and Brad would relapse and initiate his own downfall through a series of insane decisions which have left his career in the gutter, and many people questioning his sanity and moral compass. In June of 2024, Brad attended an event in person where Ethan Klein and his wife Hila were also in attendance. Being a long-time fan of the H3 podcast, Brad snapped up a photo with the pair and posted it onto his Twitter. What would seem to be a rather innocent encounter would incidentally become everything but that, as the photograph immediately sparked controversy with a portion of Brad's fanbase who were taking issue with past comments Ethan had made around Hamas and the Israeli-Palestine conflict, and then perceiving Brad to be in support of a genocidal Zionist. Brad responded by deleting the photograph and issuing a statement where he distanced himself from the Kleins. However, not everybody was attacking Brad, with some in his Twitter replies playing down the situation or offering alternative points of view. Brad himself was not having any of it, and replying to a commenter who had defended him, he stated, "The famous people in question are hated by a lot of people for really strong and dangerous opinions," and I plastered my smiling face next to them and posted it online. Which in retrospect kind of begs the question, if you perceived Ethan and Hila to be people with dangerous opinions in the first place, why would you have taken and posted the photograph in the first place? Ethan responded to this on Instagram, because of course he did, stating that this is Brad. Someone on the crew was kind enough to get him VIP tickets so he was able to come backstage and hang out with us. I had the chance to speak with him for a little bit and thought he was a nice guy. Here he is apologising for taking a photograph with me. He then continued, "I'm still waiting to know what these strong and dangerous opinions are. I'm not upset with Brad. I don't blame him for his response, but when your ideology concludes that 90% of an ethnic group are monsters, I think you probably just don't like that ethnic group." The two of them went on to kind of have a bit of a back and forth before coming to a certain level of understanding, and Brad would also appear on the H3 podcast where the discussion continued.
Well, I know I know what you're going through. It sucks when it feels like everybody's mad. That's the worst feeling. So you'll be fine.
But it's also irrational too. Like, not everybody's mad, you know?
Yeah, most
like
people,
I had a lot of people who weren't mad, who were just like, "Brad, what is happening? You okay?" You know,
Right.
and I took that as them being mad.
Right.
What were you saying?
No, you're right. You're right also.
Now, despite the exhaustive effort Brad had made to regain the public opinion, his approach to the drama did absolutely nothing to quell the backlash and rather just amplified it, and he would hilariously be kicked from his own Discord community, with the server then rebranding itself and continuing without its under fire creator. The entire situation would leave Brad completely dejected and mentally ruined, with him stating on Instagram, "I generally don't understand how anyone is supposed to handle the amount of noise that comes from having any opinion. I think I've seen every single side of this situation be mad at me for a different reason. I'm either doing too much or not enough, and trying to make everyone happy is killing me." Things were only about to go from bad to downright horrendous though, as just the following month in July, Brad managed to find himself in an even worse situation, and the sinking ship that was his YouTube career was now all but capsized. Rose Moulet is a YouTuber who by all accounts has a pretty awful track record, which consists of defending grape and animal things, to name a few, so she certainly isn't the type of individual you'd want to be associating with. So have a guess what our guy Bradley did. Well, he did the unthinkable. He decided to promote Rose in a community post stating, "Rose is a creator who I've known for a long time. They are making huge improvements as a content creator and person as of recently, and it's worth watching their work. They recently made a fantastic video on listening to tons of bad music, and now they have a sample video in the same style. It's fantastic, and clearly a ton of work was placed into it." And this would be met with immediate condemnation from Brad's audience and the wider community for well obvious reasons. Rose would interestingly appear on Chud Logic's livestream, where a discussion ensued concerning Rose's previous statements in relation to those animal things and grape.
But why did you say that stuff in the first place?
I think it was a result of trauma, a result of wanting attention. All of that shit motivated it. Maybe some of that was like over the top, a kind of jokes. Like, it's a lot of shit. I don't know. Like I said, I was just in a weird place at the time.
This honestly didn't really do anything to improve the situation for Brad, who withdrew his support for Rose shortly thereafter, stating on Twitter, "I'm sorry for platforming Rose Moulet. I really wanted to believe that this person could change. I saw my own mental disability in this person, but they have said some of the most awful and evil stuff I have ever heard or seen. There is no room to be promoting someone like that here." Effectively, he is denying any knowledge of the prior statements made by Rose, which, well, we'll get to that. Rose, though, wouldn't really take this all too well and had a mental breakdown of sorts.
I've come to the realization that I genuinely don't think there was anything that I could have done that would have prevented this. If I made an effort to do something positive, to focus my energy on productive things, being kind to people, getting rid of all the toxicity on social media, I thought that if I did that, people would understand me and I could finally be known for something greater. That this state that I've been trapped in,
I don't really think this had the effect that Rose had likely hoped for, as Brad wasn't going to come back on side at this stage and things only escalated from here. In a video titled "Brad Tasting Music is Lying to You," Rose attacked Brad in a 20-minute long hit piece where she alleges Brad had full knowledge of her previous statements and positions and had even downplayed them, providing a bunch of screenshotted DMs and tweets as evidence.
Brad claimed on both his Twitter and his community tab that he was not aware of my rape comments. That is a blatant lie. Here is a tweet from May of 2018 where he very clearly is responding to one of my comments about rape. And here is a second tweet where he is very clearly responding to one of my comments about rape. Those tweets are both still up. So for him to say that he had no idea is just a blatant lie and an attempt to save face, because what he cares about most is not losing his audience. Brad has told me in the past that he doesn't care what I post and that he also looks for attention. He's just more careful about how he does it. He says that Twitter is horrible and that I was just voicing my opinion.
Now, although Rose isn't the most credible of sources given her history, she is able to successfully highlight that Brad was certainly holding a different opinion privately to what he was projecting publicly. I feel like it's also hard to deny that it's kind of shitty to say things to her like, even if you disappoint me in the future, you're more than that and should be allowed to make mistakes, and then just completely disown the person publicly shortly after, even when it is someone like Rose who, like I said, has a bit of a history of making some questionable statements, shall we say. From here, a lot of the allegations Rose makes throughout the video are insignificant or not really backed up with any substantial evidence, such as him being transphobic or racist, when like none of the stuff she shows is really anything that indicates Brad has any hateful views. Basically just a big nothing burger and a bunch of jokes.
He claims that this transphobia was just typical behavior. Now, if you go back, you'll notice that a lot of tweets he made at the start of his channel were very questionable, where he says the N-word, but he replaces a letter with B. This is essentially him saying the same thing, but changing it slightly so he doesn't get in trouble. More weird comments.
Overall, Rose's video wasn't seen in a positive light, given that she wasn't exactly receiving a good reception from the public at the time, so many were quick to dismiss her arguments on those grounds alone. But in hindsight, a lot of the DMs and messages that were shown definitely highlighted a lot of Brad's worst character flaws, and I think she did successfully demonstrate that he was a hypocrite, and it would be this sort of attitude from Brad that would eventually lead to his own downfall. With the fallout of the H3 and Rose drama weighing heavily on Brad's mental health, he decided to take a break, tweeting, "Thank you to my community for noticing that I was not doing okay and for showing me that I need to take a break from the internet for a little bit. I'll be offline on most platforms for the next 7 days before deciding if I'm ready to return." In August of 2024, a Twitter user by the name of Perugo made an accusation of scamming against Brad, tweeting, "Brad Tasting Music put me $411 in debt and is refusing to help resolve this with me. Perugo had been hired by Brad as an editor, and after paying her over PayPal, Brad had seemingly initiated a refund on the payment transaction, leaving the editor in debt. After reaching out to Brad to try and resolve the issue, it seemed Brad didn't believe he was entirely at fault and initiated only a partial refund, leaving Perugo still like $200 in debt. She once again took to Twitter stating, "I confront Brad about this situation and he only sends me some of the money back," adding a bunch of screenshots to support the claim. In one of those screenshots, Brad can be seen stating, "Perugo, is this about the $151? Because that's the only transaction in any picture I see. You better be careful getting this upset over something I've been working on at my own pace throughout the day. If I get proof of anything saying more than $151 was taken out, then it is not my place to solve this." He's basically saying here that he doesn't really fully understand the situation and is looking into it, quote unquote, at his own pace. Which, to be honest, doesn't really feel like a very confident response from an employer. This Twitter thread will get a lot of support, and when Brad eventually did see it, his response was interesting to say the least, suggesting that he was disabled. Huh? With this disability preventing him from having a firm visual on his PayPal transactions, shall we say. He stated, "I have trouble with vision and poor reading comprehension, and my partner broke her glasses and is currently struggling to see." Needless to say, he resolved the issue pretty quickly after the situation blew up on Twitter, and he would publicly express his frustration with Perugo, who he had considered a friend, and was struggling to come to terms with the fact that they had taken the situation public to Twitter and not allowed him time to resolve the matter privately. Following on from this drama, Brad wasn't again in a very good mental place. The H3 and Rose Moulette drama and this had all occurred within the space of around 2 to 3 months, and he was continuing to receive a large amount of hate from his ever-growing list of detractors. Brad would fire up a live stream and in a pretty insane and surprising move decided to try and extract $10,000 from what remained of his loyal audience.
And anyone has access to the ability to talk to me. Financial help, like actual financial help right now. You can add super request things to the bottom. I can also link my PayPal. Right now, I need enough money to support my family. And basically, I need enough money to last about a month. So in total, maybe about 10 grand. Yeah. Like, that's like the minimum.
Many saw this as just a ridiculous move and they couldn't really grasp how a YouTuber of Brad's size was in financial ruin. I mean, remember, this is the guy that's charging $400 to review a fucking album. This led to a public feud with the YouTuber Turkey Tom, who called Brad out on Twitter. And the two then went back and forth before Tom dropped a 20-minute video where he highlighted many of the criticisms which were circulating around Brad in a condensed format. The whole thing ended pretty tamely, with Tom mostly just offering Brad advice and wishing him well, and Brad backing down and coming to reason. Brad, though, was again in a very poor mental state, and a video would surface, leaving some people to be genuinely concerned about his welfare.
I under no circumstance can listen to this album right now because I am not safe in my own home, and I really can't describe much else.
Many were now speculating what on earth was going on behind the scenes, with most of the discussions focusing around his mental health, past history with weed and drugs, and relationship with his then fiancée. It would turn out to basically be a combination of all of those things. Brad would announce in a video that he would be going to rehab and taking a break from the internet for 2 months. Following on from this post, he privated his Twitter and bizarrely unlisted all but 2 of his videos on his main channel before returning and reinstating them about a week later, when he also uploaded a video titled Top 300 Best Rap Songs Ever Reaction. And with Brad's return, he would become far less interactive with his audience on stream in an effort to remain out of controversy and for his mental well-being. These efforts would prove to be preposterously in vain. The Before we proceed to the more recent drama around Brad, it's important to understand that he was engaged to a girl named Tina. She hasn't came up much previously in this video simply because outside of appearing in Brad's streams from time to time, she hasn't played a significant role in any of the preceding dramas, but that is about to change. Brad met Tina all the way back in 2019, and I haven't been able to fully ascertain how the pair actually met, but what I do know is that she was a fan of Brad's channel and the pair hit it off pretty quickly, eventually moving in together and adopting a pet dog named Suki. They later got engaged in 2021. Now, throughout the course of their 5-year relationship, Tina would leave her full-time job and begin working for Brad for a period of 2 years, a situation she was initially reluctant to do for fear of losing her independence, but she eventually relented and began helping Brad manage his career online. Although things seemed to be going well for the pair from the outside looking in, behind the scenes that couldn't have been further from the truth, as Brad had been emotionally abusing Tina for years, and by August of 2024, things would reach a breaking point, and Tina left Brad, and eventually this led to Brad having a complete mental breakdown and being arrested for domestic violence, and firmly solidifying his status as a lolcow. After Brad's return to YouTube in the fall of 2024, things seemed to be going better to a certain extent. Brad appeared more jovial on stream and was uploading frequently to his main channel, though to say he appeared 100% mentally well would probably have been inaccurate. This productivity would come to a grounding halt in March of 2025, however, with Brad seemingly vanishing from the face of the internet. Many of his fans were now left concerned, with some even returning to his most recent video to leave comments like, "Hope you're doing well," and "Brad, where are you?" However, some of the more eagle-eyed followers had noticed him posting onto his Instagram stories, and he seemed to be traveling or just taking another break from content creation. The real reason behind Brad's absence, though, was far more sinister, and the domino effect that would end his career was imminent. On the 24th of July, Brad uploaded a video titled SI in reference to suicidal ideation. In the video, Brad appears disheveled and in poor state of mind. He does, however, come to terms with the fact that the fallout from last year isn't something that he's ever going to recover from.
Like, for some reason, like 11 months ago when like everything went down with my channel, I've just been like contemplating the perfect video, you know, that'll fix it all. I'll just say the right words and everything will go back to normal. I have learned since then that that is not reality, and I don't want it to be reality. So basically, I'm here making this video really for the reason that like I want to get certain information across to people who care.
The video takes a more darker twist though when Brad begins discussing his ex-fiancée Tina and the breakup of their relationship.
The problem is, it wasn't that easy to get out. So yeah, you know, people are talking about it. I'm a hot topic. And my partner is freaking out because she's involved. You know, she's a part of the whole equation. And I start trying to, you know, say things to fix it. And when I try to help, it basically results in her screaming and crying that things are getting worse and that it's all my fault.
He continues and begins discussing their financial arrangements.
I'm paying her a ridiculous amount of money, like $5,000 a month, to basically do nothing. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I don't have a problem with that. Like, if I like paying her $5,000 a month so she could, you know, lay around, smoke weed on the couch and be happy. Great, you know, but I don't think that she really respected me. I don't think she saw things in me that were like important for her to see.
He also accuses her of betraying him by recording one of their arguments, which we will get to, and he rather coldly suggests that losing Hivemind, who for context is another YouTuber and former friend of Brad's, was worse than losing his fiancée Tina.
I'd say that everything reached an apex when she recorded me in my house
yelling at her through the door. I was fucking pissed. I was just like mad because I'm trying to fucking figure everything out in like an impossible situation. You know, trying to get things back to normal so that like we can live a normal fucking life. And she repays me by recording me in my house without my knowledge. She sends it to my parents. She sends it to friends. She sends it to people who are associated with Hive Mind. You know, like at that point I was done with her. Like at that point I was like, this is fucked up. Like I'm doing everything I can in this situation to make things work. I love you, but we're not going to be a good match.
He goes on to recount a situation where the two had an argument which escalated to the point where Brad had wanted Tina to leave and resulted in him being arrested for domestic violence.
Yeah. I believe maybe like a week later, I was streaming when I said, I remember I was like doing a stream and then I left. I go to the kitchen. I see her sitting on the couch like screaming and crying and I'm pissed off. Like, because like I'm trying to focus, you know, to get work done. And it felt like she was interrupting that. Now, here's the thing. What I want you to understand out of all of this, and remember how I said that it was all like, you know, it wasn't just this scenario happening, that this was like a long-term effect. Well, I was so obsessed with my work. I became like completely locked into that. To the point of where she has told me that she felt completely invisible in the relationship. Yeah, my response to her crying was screaming at her, which was bad, but my justification was, I am streaming right now. I can't have you like screaming and crying like in the house. You know, I told her to go basically stay with her mother, who lived like 5 minutes away. Instead of doing that, she got me kicked. Okay, so I'm like doing this thing where I'm like, you need to go to your mom's house. And she's like, you know, fuck you. This is my house too. And I'm like, I pay all the bills. This is all important. This is all important. Trust me. I pay the bills for this entire place. You know, like I'm keeping it up. You don't contribute shit to the equation. Get out. She calls the cops on me and they have me arrested for domestic violence. That is really where the story all starts. Like, you know, I'm in a jail cell.
The entire thing comes across like he is trying to push most of the blame onto Tina for the fallout of their relationship, and his oversharing of personal details concerning their finances seemed to be a case of him wanting to inflict damage on Tina and garner sympathy points for himself.
Yeah, and it's the biggest betrayal I've ever felt.
Interestingly, Brad bringing up Tina and specifically his arrest for domestic abuse in this video had only brought about further speculation around their relationship when most of his audience had moved on. Seemingly, Brad hadn't. The following day, Tina responded on Twitter in a thread, "I do not want him to hurt himself and I do not want to get into legal trouble. I have been silent this past year because I wanted to see him get better. And I desperately wanted to move forward with my life after spending half of my 20s being abused. It's clear he still wants to punish me for the consequences of his own actions. I have no doubts about what I went through, as I have undeniable evidence of it." I'm not going to read all of these tweets. She didn't reveal a lot of specifics throughout the rest of the thread, just reiterating that she had been abused and that she was in a much better place now. From this though, Tina received widespread support from most of Brad's former community and from fans who had stuck with him, but now saw this as a step too far. And this would lead to Brad being dropped from Flex Entertainment, the record label which had been producing his rap music. Brad's response to the situation was a new video on his main channel titled simply 2, where he backed down and retracted most of the positions he had taken in the first video from 2 days previously, which he had since made private or unlisted, and announced a year-long break from content creation.
Again, I brought this shit back up, and it makes perfect sense why she's so upset and so hurt. But even then, it took me a couple of days for it to all click. Because I was like, oh, what's so wrong with this video, I'm just talking about my own experience, but that's just the thing. It was all about me. It was selfish, and it turned into a complete disaster. And yeah, that's all I have to say is that I'm going away for a year, and that's probably the minimum for something that's this big of a fuck up. So I'm sorry. I let everybody down, yeah. So peace.
Surprisingly, Brad would take accountability for some of his actions, but didn't directly address the allegations of abuse. Honestly, if he had left it at this, he may have regained a slither of his self-respect back, but our curly-haired composer had other plans and would take things to a whole new level of what the fuck. He would also take down the video shortly after its upload. Tina, on the other hand, would tweet, "I've decided I'm not going to speak publicly on the Brad situation beyond these tweets. I just want to close this chapter and move on with my life. The only thing I want to clarify based on things I've seen being discussed is that he never hit me or physically abused me. I'm going to continue silently rooting for his rehabilitation and working on healing the wounds that this whole recent situation reopened. Thanks again for all of the support and kindness." This period of grace wouldn't last for long, however, as just 10 days later, Brad would return to streaming and not in his usual format, as he decided to freestyle rap for 50 minutes and attack Tina from almost every angle.
I'm fucking left with nothing. Haters mad at me, pushing the button. Haters mad at me, as they should. I am taking care now of my neighborhood. I'm actually giving a shit about the people who surround me. Man, it's like none of this bullshit, it surrounds me anymore. Yeah, these haters, they around me all the time, man. Treat me like salami.
What the fuck is wrong with this guy? This was met by Brad's audience with widespread disgust and condemnation, with many people being shocked that he was once again reigniting the drama. He would also upload another video titled My Statement, where he again comes across as manipulative and tries to paint himself as the victim.
But today, okay, I'm going to be bringing up, yes, I am talking about this, I'm going to be bringing up my ex-partner. But I want to make it very clear that everything I am about to say, I have zero intention of saying or like trying to victimize myself through what she has done.
Needless to say, people weren't buying the act, and by this stage Tina had also thought enough was enough, and she went full scorched earth on her former partner. The recordings of the quote-unquote arguments with Brad were given to the YouTuber The Op Block, and to say they were bad would be an understatement. For context, this occurred the previous year prior to the two breaking up, and if you're sensitive to loud verbal abuse, you may want to skip past this section.
So you lied to me and you didn't even remember it? You don't even remember
a white
any
lie
details
about the dogs that I took care of.
So it meant nothing to you, just a little white lie about the dogs.
I'm saying I'm sure that it's happened.
You're so used to throwing white lies at me, you don't even recognize this one?
No, that's not true. I just don't.
God, there's so many white lies, Tina. It's like, if they're all white lies, then none of them are, right?
Things then escalate, with Brad demanding for Tina to get out of his house and insinuating that he would fabricate a story to the police in order to have her removed.
Stop being such a wimp! Look at me and accept what you have done to me! Do you see what I've become? Get out of my house! Get out of my fucking house!
Don't do it, don't do it, don't,
you're blind.
Don't.
Brad then begins screaming at Tina in a ridiculous, villainous voice thing, what is he doing here?
If you don't respect me as an individual, then you can, honest to God, get the fuck out of my house.
both of our names are on the lease. So that's not going to happen. And also, you are not
I'm
entitled.
gonna call the police.
Yeah,
I will get you out of here.
Both of
I
them.
will make a story up. I will get you out of here,
Both
Tina.
of our names are on the lease, so you will not be doing that. And
I will say my partner has been emotionally abusive, and I've asked her to leave many times. And despite the fact that I have no support system, she has refused to leave and has continued to emotionally abuse me. I need her to get out for at least a day. I need space, and she refuses. Can you please escort my partner somewhere else so that I can have some mental peace? That's what I'm going to tell her.
The situation would culminate with the police being called and Brad being taken into police custody. These recordings would truly be the final nail in the coffin for Brad, with everyone now cutting ties with the man. He would attempt to regain some credibility in a video titled "Sorry."
See, I'm really scared of her because she's smarter than me. When our relationship, like, I'm younger than her, and I never really had a strong foundation, like, at home. And when I went to go live with her, she thought very differently than I did on a lot of things. And a lot of the time, I would blame her for things that are not her fault. And I truly believe I didn't know any better. And that's what's so scary about it. I keep trying to fix stuff.
At this stage, though, the damage was already done, and any opportunities for recourse had long since passed, and basically just nobody was buying this. He then removed the video shortly after uploading it. Now, I don't believe Brad was criminally charged for the DV incidents, but his career on YouTube is very much over. As of me making this video, he hasn't made any further attempts to come back, but he has opened up on another YouTuber's live stream, one who is dealing with a whole other situation of his own. In an interesting turn of events, Brad called into Destiny's stream on the 13th of August, and he appeared to be in a jovial and bubbly mood. And initially, Destiny seemed confused as to why he'd even called in the first place, with the conversation lacking any real direction. But the focus shifts to Brad's relationship with Tina, and he basically just admits he was at fault for everything. This isn't anything new, we've seen him do this before, so it doesn't really amount to a great deal, and I don't think there were many people still fighting his corner at this stage.
I didn't even realize how bad it was because, like, I had convinced myself that she was trying to destroy me. You know, because, like, it's hard. Like, she is someone who she's like a real rare breed of a person, like, who actually genuinely just wants to do good in the world. And I feel like I destroyed that, and I keep, like, doing it over and over and over again, like, even like a year after, and like I think that just like caused me to just like totally just slip. Yeah.
Okay. What do you I have no idea where this conversation is supposed to go or anything, so I don't know what is there anything in particular, I guess, that you wanted to chat about that, or did you wanted to I'm just not sure exactly what you're, I guess, looking for.
I find the entire interaction to just be bizarre, in all honesty. Literally a week prior to this, Brad had dropped a 50-minute long diss track on Tina and said some pretty nasty shit, and now here he is just apologising and trying to garner sympathy. There isn't much else that can really be said from this interaction. Destiny doesn't seem really all that interested in the situation, and the conversation just seemed to go around in circles. Brad did suggest that he may return to college, doesn't plan to produce another response, and plans to take an extended break from YouTube. I don't feel like Brad can be taken at his word with this though. I feel like it is just as likely that he will fire up a live stream tomorrow and try and make a return, as it is him popping back up in a year's time and acting like nothing has even happened. Whatever the case is for Brad, his career on YouTube certainly seems to be all but over. I personally feel like he just shouldn't return, if anything for his own sake. Clearly isn't someone who is mentally equipped to be a public figure and held to the additional level of scrutiny that comes with that. He has proven time and time again that he isn't capable of projecting and standing by his real opinions without immense fear of backlash from his own audience, and his actions online, and by extension his online persona, has been shaped by these fallacies. This has led Brad into a situation where he isn't identified by others for the positions that he takes, but rather for his inability to stand by any position at all. To put it simply, Brad is a spineless coward. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope if you have made it this far in the video that you'd consider subscribing so that you can stay up to date with all of the future content. But until next time, take care, and I will see you in the next one.